All right. Hello, my name is Colin MacInnis, and today I'm going to be showing the idea of co-host. So my idea last year, I think I called it Sandman. I decided to scratch that and really started back on this Wednesday. So it's been a little bit of a hectic week, but I'm trying to get there. So, as many of us know, that there are a lot of universities and colleges that thrive off a social atmosphere. St. FX being one of them. So I wondered, okay, well, how do you get involved with the social atmosphere societies? So this is the business society from last year. I was really heavily involved with, and I really enjoyed my time there. And we had a lot of great goals, and we had a great team to work with. But then the problem becomes the next year. So they have a lot of issues, and as far as I'm concerned, they're reinventing the wheel. There was no guides, there's no transition period. They just kind of start off doing rebuilding everything from scratch, and that's the way it really works, because all the team members from the year before were all fourth year students. They move on, and then usually, I was saying to Brian today, it's typically all fourth year students that are trying to get up there, run the show and stuff, and organize this stuff. And they're not the only people having this problem, this one society. Over 90 societies at St. FX, at the one university. And what I really feel like they should be focusing on, which is what I was really, really upset I didn't get to do, is focusing on the next step. I don't know what the next slide is. Yeah. So co-host would be this platform where you can access event history, event planning guides, and I really mean you can get a planning guide online, but I mean go contact these people at this building in this community and get these really detailed team contact information, and then you could even go in and collaborate with other societies at that same school or in the future at a different university. Easier than it is, it is being done today that people are collaborating, Enactus is one of them, formerly known as SIFE. But it's not being really done on this level where it's a social network and can be easy to do. So as for demo, this is what I was able to throw together. So host the best events on campus with the co-host, sign up, register your society. Gavin, you would help me with that drop-down menu today, really appreciate it. Pretty basic. And this is where I am now. I'm just trying to tweak it a bit, but upload the profile picture. That's just a backdrop from the picture on the front. And then there'd be contact and everything. So that's all I have for now. And that is the conclusion of my presentation.
Okay, so go to the very first slide.
Yep.
Okay, so I liked this. It looks good. It's super clean. And I'm social network for college and university. That sounds familiar. And then societies, and I'm oh, okay, that's a little bit different. I'm curious about this now. But it looks nice, and that salmon red or pink, whatever that color is.
It's like coral or something. I really like it.
Yeah, it looks nice.
It's not a web family.
But so it looks good, and there's so much contrast there with the light color on the dark background. It looks really nice. So next slide. I thought this was a cool slide again. You just had font and you had this image. It looks more like a bar or a party or something like that than it does a society meeting or something like that. So maybe
the events take place at the bar sometimes.
But so maybe that's Frosh Week. Maybe in the Frosh Society did that or whatever. Have just make sense of it, right? So having a big image like that and with nice font on top of it and just simple words is a great idea, and you should try to do that for more slides in a presentation. So go to the next, and then this is the accomplishments of a society that you were in.
Yeah, and then the problems that happened after we left. We all I would have loved to continue on to society, but I wanted to get the hell out of university.
Okay, go to the next slide again.
Yeah.
Okay, so on this slide, I found myself reading the stuff that was going on, and then looking at the quote at the bottom that's pointing to an article and thinking about the decision that you made to draw that arrow, and then put the thing at the bottom, and then I was trying to read the quotes and I was trying to make sense of it,
A lot going
and
on.
then I realized that I wasn't listening to you speak.
Okay.
And so it's like I think you always consider, like, when you're putting information on the screen or you're speaking, it's like people have to make a choice, right? Maybe they can listen to both or say they're listening to both, but they're really only like looking at
Versus the other side with where it said thrive or whatever.
Yeah, just something super simple. So I started reading these quotes and I was like, who was in charge of this last year? And I thought that was like a pretty powerful quote. I was like, when I read that quote, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm starting to see like the handoff. Like these societies are always switching, and government has these problems because every 4 years new government comes in. But with societies, it's like probably every year. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have somebody that stays for a little while, but who was in charge of this last year? What was the process last year? Like, what am I going to do this year? I think this slide could have just been like a person looking at like a piece of paper, maybe like looking a little bit frustrated, and then just like who was in charge of this last year in quotes, right? And that's all that was like on this slide.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna write that down, but I can rewatch this.
Yeah. And what's been done before? How did it work? I don't know. That's the same quote to me. Kind of like just choose one of those, right? We have some shoes to fill. Like they're like. Maybe that's the same quote. Like, just pick the one that's the most powerful. And
Yeah.
Only that on there. And so I guess my question right now is just what is like the heart of this? Is that handoff process at the heart of this, or is it the ability for existing societies to manage themselves properly? Or
I want societies to focus on the next level. Like when a new team comes in, like if there's one thing we've learned from internet and social media over the years, it's that when people work together, big things can happen. So these people are kind of limited in this constant loop where they do an event, and then the next year, okay, like they think of a brand new event and they do that, and then the next year they completely think of a brand, like there's no consistency from year to year. And I want to give them that consistency and everything they need to access so that they can say, okay, that's going on now and we're going to pick up. Like last year, there's a strike in 2013 and a lot of our faculty, like there's a lot of job cuts and everything. And our society dipped in there and started picking up on those jobs and getting students involved in getting them experience in doing those jobs. Just to kind of like to not lose out on the quality of our education and stuff. So it was neat. But like now this year, I don't know if they're still doing it.
Okay, go to the next slide. There was a slide that had this one. So are these are all the features?
Yeah.
So again, this was like just too much information, and I wanted to listen to you, so I didn't bother reading everything that was in the boxes. Team contact information, event planning guides, access event history, develop stronger communities, connect with other leaders. Like, I don't like. Is this all one thing, or are these many different features of one thing? And what is like the most important thing? Because having having a focused idea of what the original version is going to be like, that's the MVP, right? Is really important.
Okay. So for the consistency part I was talking about were the top three, and then where you can focus on next step are the bottom three. So I want them focusing on the next step, so that would probably be the way to go. But I don't think this is where I want to be focusing, but it can't really happen as clearly as I want it to without giving them.
What sort of information am I going to put into co-host?
Pretty much all your guides. If you could get like a template and have them fill out like a review of each event that they did, or how much money they gained, what worked, what didn't, and then the next year that comes in can have all that at their fingertips, and even partner up with other societies to do another event.
Is there the concept of a person? And like, do people have profiles?
One society would have a profile. So it wouldn't
So,
be individual people.
Okay, so a society has a profile. Okay, and so it's the societies that are able to interact in the
Yeah.
network? Okay.
What if someone's
Colin,
involved?
yeah, I have a comment, I guess.
Yeah.
And I see an application for this that's kind of outside of the university network, but it's something I'm really passionate about that I've been involved with for a while, and that's planning of conferences. So what we did with one of the associations I'm affiliated with, we made a conference planning document. So it was kind of this event planning guide, and what we would do, we would give it to the next place, and at the end we would do kind of a debrief. What worked, what didn't, what can we take out, and then that document kind of just traveled around. Especially for this association, it was kind of across the country. And there's another one that involved in the U.S. We did something similar. We tried to put it online, but I see this as a really powerful application to keep that conversation going, because conferences happen once a year, and then they're probably off to another city. And your planning team may stay somewhat the same. It may change. So you do have some of that transition, whereas in the university network, it's probably more powerful because you may not have any remaining members, right? So it's all brand new. But I think there's a way, to document key learnings from an event, post-mortem on it, and then feeding it into this would help a lot of associations, especially the volunteer ones, be better, more efficient, and kind of probably produce a better conference as a result. So probably a lot of application for it.
And I'll be honest as well, I'm a bit concerned about the leaving it for the next person part. The reason why I'm concerned with it is just due to the general age of people coming into this. They're fourth year university students at the time. They're about that 21, 22 type age. At that age, with that amount of knowledge, everybody thinks they're the resident expert. So you're going to get that natural tendency for every group to want to come in there and reinvent the wheel regardless of what's there before them. I'm just wondering if that's potentially the best thing you want to pivot. You can put things in there like review of certain events and how these events went, and this is how we did it, but we're not going to say like, okay, we made it to this point this year, so you should conceptually start from there and move on. I just, for these societies, I can't see that being a reality a lot of the time. That was really the big thing I had, and the other thing is logins as well. So if you've got a login for your network, like what if one student is involved in multiple networks, which is the case a lot of the time. If you're involved with one society, you're usually involved with a bunch of other branch off societies of that as well. If you look at like a business student, they might be in the marketing society, and they might be in the management society, and they might be in this other society at the same time. So I'm wondering if it might be easier to have it on a user base as opposed to a group base, and kind of like a passing the torch type of thing year in, year out at that point. Those were my observations from that, and my question to you is, why did you choose this over Sandman, just out of curiosity?
I was talking to a friend of mine in MacInnis. I was really passionate about this, the society that I was involved with, and I said, like, hey, how are things going? They said, they're telling me how much time they spent organizing a golf tournament when they would have rather have organized something bigger. And I said, like, the golf tournament, like, I had a template for that. And I actually had a first year, well, like when we were there, I said, does anybody, like first year students, do you want to get involved? Yeah. And I gave them that, and they organized the golf tournament while I was able to focus on other things. And like paint a bigger picture. So that's kind of where that came from, was like, if like I had known that, I would have like, and I gave them the documents before, but sometimes they just didn't look at it, or it's in an old email, or it's buried away,
And okay, no, that's a good answer. I was just curious as to why. No, I think that this is a good idea. I just think you have to be mindful of your pivot. I think how like the event planning might be great to show them like this is how we plan this event, similar to like the example you just cited. But maybe saying like this is how the society is run. This is where you should be starting from. That might not be the best pivot point.
Yeah.
No, it was good. Other than that.
Brian, did you?
Just to fix Rob's issue. Would it be, I don't know if Senate fixed it, but at Sheridan, when our student union was doing things, we had someone else in charge of societies, as the union and stuff had. If this was something that was built into what that person did, the person that is in charge of coordinating membership status, had, like, if you want to integrate stuff with society or with the actual union or with the university, you know, we have this system that you can have, like, everyone involved and have chats or budgets and stuff like that together. Idea.
Yeah. No, I don't know. This is like an idea that generated on Wednesday.
Absolutely.
Like literally, I think it was Wednesday at 11 a.m. And I was working on Sandman. I said, "Screw it!" Like after here.
And that's why we're throwing these things at you
yeah.
at the same time,
Yeah.
just because you haven't had a lot of time to think.
Yeah.
About it, so these might be things.
I like it. Like it's just a big thought bubble, and the collection of more input is great. Yeah.
Can you go forward to the interface again? So this is where you sign up.
Yeah,
That
this
looks
would
good.
be. Yeah.
So go to the next. That's
That would need more fields in it, like a password or whatever. You could even maybe add users, like if you have a profile, then add this user to this society, and like you can be on a bunch of different
and
ones.
then go to
Right?
the next one. So opportunities, upcoming events.
This is
society.
still. Sorry to cut you off. There's around 1 o'clock. My friend messaged me on Facebook, said, "What are you working on?" I sent them a screenshot, and they said, "Oh, I hate it." So I said, "Okay, well, like tell me, like how would you prefer?" And they said, like, I had these like streaming out, and they said like make it more compact, and that's where I got to before the presentation.
Well, I do want to click on those things, and I feel
Mhm.
like the content would expand to the right. So I think that looks like a nice interface. I guess I still just don't know like what this network does exactly. And so, like you were talking about having like, it sounds like every society has like their own documents, and they do think about like, okay, we planned this event, then we could share the
Mhm.
like, you know, the stuff that we wrote down with the people next year, right? So it would probably make sense if you could probably just like upload documents into this thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like a place to have a bunch of documents and keep them in one place, and then the people next year can be like, okay, here's the documents. for
That's
this
right.
event and that type of thing, right?
That's where I'm thinking that the society info would go.
Okay.
Or there would be somewhere that like only your society could access, because another thing that you don't want to do is start hosting events based on other societies' events, like, and having it on the same night. But like, even if you had the financial statements, like, hey, the coffee house made $400 this year, and then next year it's like, okay, that like you can start to estimate how much you're gonna make, which would be great.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I would just try to like simplify it a little bit. Like you should have this one use case that is super clear,
Mhm.
and that anybody running a society would be like, yeah, we should use this.
Mhm.
And I feel like right now
There's a lot.
too many use cases.
Yeah.
And it's good to have like, you know, we can eventually do this and we can eventually do this, and like so it shows like the, you know, the potential for your product, but having that one reason that people would use it is really important.
Yeah.
Cool man.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.